Well, according to my phone, it is 10 a.m. And I always want to be respectful of people's time. So first of all, on behalf of the Zembrat Center, I'm Karen Herdina. I'm one of the advisory board members, and I welcome you to this webinar on the stable accounts. The Zembrat Center is part of the Point Northern Kentucky ARC, and the Zembrat Education Center has been around. We had the groundbreaking or grand opening two weeks before the pandemic started. So we had a slow start, but we provide in Northern Kentucky peers organization, peer groups. We have a Connects for a social group for individuals with intellectual disabilities. We have a supported employment program, as well as we have rental space so people can rent space from us. And we also do things like these webinars. We do them about every other month or so. We've done webinars on alternatives to guardianship, stable, Medicaid information, and we hope to do more of those. So I thank all of you for coming and supporting this. And then I'll turn this over to Jockey, who is in charge of the stable accounts in the state of Kentucky under the Treasurer's Office. It's all yours, Jockey.
Hello, my name is Jockey Dengesi. I'm a new director of Stable Kentucky, and I'm still new. I'm still learning, and that's why I'm gonna just turn over to Caroline, and she's gonna do her presentation.
Well, thank you, Karen, and thank you, Jockey, and just welcome everyone this morning, and so glad you are here. So want to let you know a couple of things. We are recording the presentation, and once it's captioned, it will be on the Human Development Institute's YouTube channel, and so you can check that out there if you want to send it to other people as well. And also, I'm going to go back to the Zembrat Education Center. Just know that if you want to be on their email listserv, you can contact them, and you would be on their email listserv because I know that they would be glad to have you join them for their webinars regardless of where you live. So just wanted to give that shout out for that. And thank you. So thanks, Chelsea. And also, we will be issuing certificates for those of you who stay for the hour. And Zoom does give us a usage report, so we kind of know. Although clearly you could also just log into the meeting and then go to the grocery store, but and we wouldn't know. But if you leave the meeting, Zoom tells us. All right, again, so thanks for being here today. So I'm going to assume that all of you have an interest in supporting people with disabilities to be able to save for the future, to not be poor, but also maintain needed, their eligibility for needed benefits such as supplemental security income, SSI, and or Medicaid, as well as to encourage families of young children who may not even be on SSI or Medicaid, but want to save for the future in a way that protects their eligibility for those important programs somewhere down the road, that there are options and opportunities for people to do so. So that's what Stable, which is Kentucky's ABLE program, provides an opportunity to do. So ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Lifetime Experience, and Stable is Kentucky's ABLE program. I think I got that correct. So Karen, if you would please share who some of these people are in this slot, in this picture, and your role in helping to get Stable to Kentucky.
Well, the person in the green tie in the front, that's Senator Will Schroeder. And Senator Schroeder, when he's running the very first time, made the mistake of coming up to my door and knocked on the door, and we started talking, and I said, I wish there was a way that people could save money, even though they're getting Social Security, because what good does it have you to own a car if you don't have enough money to fix the car? What good does it do to have you to have a house or an apartment? You don't have enough money to take care of things that come that you don't expect, right? Because we all put money in savings. So he said, well, if I get elected, I'll look into it. And sure enough, he got elected, contacted me. Through him, I met Mary Lee Perry Underwood. She's standing, no, thank you. And Tim, there's Tim, because they both were at CCDD, and we worked very, Yeah, CCDD. And anyway, we worked very hard to get that. I had another friend who knew another representative, Matt Denham. And so we got a bill put together and submitted. Unfortunately, it didn't pass in the 2015 session, but it did pass in the 2016 session. So that's how I got involved with Stable, and also how I met Carolyn. And also on the very right-hand side is our treasurer, Treasurer Ball, Allison Ball. Is that good, Karen?
That's great. Thanks, Karen. So yes, that is how we met. And actually, you and I were involved in a number of meetings with some of those same cast of characters to actually bring the program to the treasurer's office. So it was really quite an adventure. But we also want to give credit, and I think you did, but just to give credit again to the thousands of parents who advocated for passage of this legislation on the federal level. I think it was 10 years. I think it took 10 years to get it passed. And so just again, we stand on their shoulders and are grateful to them for the hard work that they did. And actually there is currently legislation to even make the ABLE program better that I'll try to remember to talk about here. But really want to talk about the present. So what is ABLE? Again, as I said earlier, it stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. It was passed in 2014 against a federal legislation that President Barack Obama at the time signed, and it creates savings and investment accounts for individuals with disabilities. Right now, for individuals with disabilities whose disability started before they were the age of 26. Now, I'll probably say this more than once, but just to make sure you understand, you don't have to have opened an account before you were 26. Your disability has to have occurred before the age of 26. And we'll add, there is federal legislation now that's been proposed that would increase that to age 46. So it allows an opportunity to save money without impacting eligibility for certain means-tested benefits, primarily supplemental security income, SSI, and Medicaid. However, again, a person doesn't have to be on either of those benefits in order to open a stable account. So what is it? It's kind of the combination of a 529 college savings plan. So ABLE, the ABLE Act is in the IRS code 529A. And so just like college savings plans, it provides an opportunity to save for the future, where the money grows tax-free as long as it's used for qualified disability expenses. It can function as a savings, as a checking account, and then has the same kinds of protection as a special needs trust. So Stable Kentucky, as Karen stated, is Kentucky's ABLE plan. And Chelsea has put in the Stable Kentucky website, and we really would like you to click on it and bookmark it, because if you just go and Google Stable Kentucky or ABLE Kentucky, you'll get the Virginia program, because theirs is ABLE now. And so it just comes up first. And I don't know how to find out how many Kentuckians may have opened an account in Virginia. Nothing wrong with that, but we want to encourage you to open an account in Kentucky for lots of reasons, but that means there's that much more money that's pooled together for investment purposes. And as Karen stated, it's currently administered by the Treasurer of Kentucky, who is Allison Ball. Now, legislation was passed, and Karen, maybe not this session, but the session before, that would keep that, it's housed in the Treasurer's program regardless of who's treasurer.
I think it was passed in 2019.
19, okay, thank you. So it gives perpetuity to the program, so it's not reliant on a particular individual. And it was launched in December of 2016. And Kentucky's program is only offered to Kentucky residents, but it's part of the Ohio Stable program, which is a national program, which means that if you open an account in Kentucky and you move to Florida, I think about all you really need to do is to change your address. So it really gives you, to me, a seamless opportunity to open an account here. But again, should you move, it doesn't create any issues in terms of needing to change the account. So these are some of the benefits. The ownership, it's owned by the individual who lives with a disability. It does provide for greater financial independence, because people don't have to either spend down or perhaps spend money they might have inherited or might have acquired through scratching off a lottery ticket in a capricious fashion. And it may qualify for multiple tax benefits. That means that the gifting that people might do to the account. So Tim Moore, if you would please unmute yourself. So Tim works for the Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities. and was actually in that picture that Karen pointed him out in the first slide. And Tim has a stable account. So Tim, if you can share your experiences with opening and having a stable account.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tim Moore. I am, as Carolyn mentioned, a staff member at the Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities, and I opened my stable account in 2019, and I use my stable account funding for qualified disability expenses, including assistive technology. I use it for things such as the screen magnification software that I have right now. I use it for an iPhone. I use it for my computer, my desktop computer that I'm working on right now. I use it for a smart oven and an Alexa dot to go with it. So mainly I use mine for any assistive technology expenses that I might need related to my blindness, my my visual impairment. And then I can also use that for, let's say, I'm living on my own and I have bills that come up. I can use it for that. I can use it for groceries. I can use it for clothing if needed, transportation, if I want to take a class, stuff like that.
Thank you, Tim. So also Karen will be sharing later about how she's opened a stable account for her sons, and I've also opened one for the person for whom I help oversee her money. So we are just all big fans of the stable program for lots of reasons. So again, the eligibility, and you can take a quiz. It's on the stable website if you're not sure, but it's an individual living with a disability that occurs. So the disability occurred prior to age 26, plus one of the following: eligible to receive SSI, Supplemental Security Income, or SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance due to disability, and that's because Social Security then has verified that people do have a disability that meets certain criteria, or conditions listed on SSA, Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances conditions, or self-certification. So there are just lots of ways to ensure that one is eligible. So self-certification is defined as the person needs a diagnosis of a physical or mental impairment that causes marked and severe functional limitations. That condition has lasted or is expected to last for at least 1 year. And you do not need to send in written diagnosis, but must have on hand. And so enrollment, how do you enroll? How do you open a stable account? Well, you go to this website, and we will go to that as soon as I'm finished with the presentation. I had it up earlier. So again, Chelsea still has it in the chat box. What it is, stablekentucky.com. And it is pretty quick and easy. And to me, it's quick and easy if you've done some homework ahead of time. So I'll coach you about what you need to have read through on the website before you open the account. And it costs $25. Minimum opening deposit of the person needs a minimum opening deposit of $25. And so the enrollment can be completed by the individual with a disability who is the account holder, regardless of who opens the account, or an authorized legal representative. So it can be an agent under a power of attorney, a conservator or legal guardian, a spouse, parent, sibling, grandparent, Social Security representative payee, in that order, and that there is no other willing and able person with a higher priority as listed above to establish the ABLE account. Now, I will show you, I'm pretty sure that if you're not if you're not the person, if you're not a power of attorney, if you're not the guardian or the conservator, you probably need to complete what's a limited power of attorney form that they have on their website. And I can show you where that is. And then that provides the opportunity for that person to open the account either with or on behalf of the individual with a disability. So how do you fund your account? Well, you can link the account to a bank account and just do electronic funds transfer, or you can send in a check. There also are ways to have payroll deduction, but that's going to have to do with whether or not your business does that. If the business that you work for actually then has a way for you to do that. So not all businesses do, but increasingly there are those that do provide for that opportunity. When I set up the stable account for my friend Linda, for whom I am a power of attorney, I set it up with an electronic funds transfer. So I just linked the joint checking account that we have, and that's where her Social Security retirement account now is deposited. I just link those two. Karen, do you want to talk about how you know the check works better for some people to mail in a check? And we can show what the address is. I think you have
I-
some experience with that.
Well, when I first opened mine, I did it by check just because I wanted to keep track of things. But also I have worked with some families because it's a multiple step for electronic funds transfer, because you have to connect it,
Yes.
then you have to watch your bank account, and there's a deposit, then a withdrawal, then a deposit, then a withdrawal, and it's only like 3 or 4 cents. But anyway, for some families, due to how much they have going on in their life,
Mhm.
that it just, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to look in time. And there is a period of time, I think it's like 10 days, where you have to say, oh, I've got my withdrawal and deposits. So I have recommended some families, if they're very busy, just send a check in, because I've never had a problem.
Right.
There's been other times I've sent a check in for other reasons, or a family member has sent a check instead of sending it to us. And so the checks work just fine. But anyway, it's just the multiple step that was difficult for some people I worked with.
So thank you, Karen. So I think just again, we want to let folks know that there are options for how it can work to get money into the account. You have to have a bank account. I don't think you can do this without a bank account. That's all I would say. There has to be a bank account somewhere that, again, money can come from it into, in other words, like if somebody just has one of those electronic EFT cards that their benefit gets loaded onto, I guess there's a way to figure it out, but it's hopefully someone has a bank account that can be that can be used again to fund the account, as well as be a place for money to go when you request a distribution, so that the things Tim talked about purchasing, I'm going to assume that money came back into your account, Tim, and then you purchase those items. At least that's how it works for my friend Linda and myself, or you use a stable card. So there are situations where there is payroll deduction for employees living with disabilities and their families. So I don't know if there are any employers on today. Many of you work for large employers. And if you want to be able to do this, I suggest you talk to your employer. I mean, there are lots of ways. It's not hard, as far as I know, for the employer to set this up. And this would be, again, it's an easy way. Again, many employers have an opportunity where you can, I know at least with the University of Kentucky, I can easily make a payroll deduction to the United Way, for example. I can do payroll deduction into my flexible spending account for, to have money for health benefits. So, and again, there can be ways. Clearly there's payroll deduction for retirement accounts. So again, this talks about how it's as a no-cost benefit for your company and employees. It would provide every employee the opportunity to save and invest in the future. Again, if you have a family member with a disability or someone for whom you want to do that for, and it promotes inclusion and brings financial parity to your workforce. So we want you to know about this because, again, it wouldn't be hard to do. I'm sure Jockey could help you connect with the people in Ohio as to how this happens. But just know this is something that I don't think it was like this in the very beginning, but now it is now. And so again, for those of you who do work with employers, or you work with employers, but also you have an employer, it would be something to explore. So how do you fund your account? Or how much can you put into an account? So if the person is not employed, so the person with a disability, the account holder, or is not employed, up to $16,000 per year can be contributed. And when it says from all sources, that means from anyone. So it could be parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. It could be from the person's wages or the person's Social Security disability benefits. But if employed, then you can actually contribute an additional, if I do the math correctly, $12,880 per year. And then there's a lifetime balance of $517,000, which is tied to the amount of money that can be in a person's 529 college savings account. Now, a person cannot, and believe it or not, I mean, I certainly would not, this would not be true for me, but there are people who might be able to, frankly, contribute maybe $100,000. You can do that in a college savings plan. You cannot do that in a stable account. You can't just sort of like do your gift tax exclusion for a number of years all at once. But So $16,000 a year, I think we would all agree is a substantial amount of money. Again, so if not employed, $16,000 per year from all sources, and then if employed, up to an additional $12,880. And when you apply, you actually are asked the question, are you employed? Because then that gives you the opportunity to contribute more. And then the lifetime balance, or the lifetime limit, and I'm going to assume, since it says balance limit, that that would be both contributions and growth. Of course, you can spend money, so that would get the balance limit below. So the gifting page allows anyone to give financial gifts. So this to me is a great service, so that for someone's birthday, you would be able to send out emails to people to say, or graduation, you know, is also, that just happened. A lot of young adults just graduated from high school or could be college. So a gift contribution to an ABLE account, it says, can help pay for everyday expenses and care down the road. Plus it's easier than wrapping a present. So this is what the message would be that would go to people. Thank you for contributing to Amy's future. So I don't know if you do similar to like on Facebook on your birthday, you can set up a fundraising, you know, you can say, I want to raise $250 for a particular nonprofit. But in any event, this shows where Amy's gifting progress is 10% complete. And the thing to remember is that money, again, in a stable account does not count as a resource or as income to the person. Now, you do need to know that when a person works, if they put that money into their stable account, it still counts as income for purposes of Social Security, but it would keep them from going over the resource limit. Stable accounts are investment accounts. Now, that may sound pretty scary right now, given the market, although I could also say to you that everything's on sale. Everything's on sale. So depending on your risk tolerance and how long you think you want your money to be, I just encourage everyone who opens an account to spend time on the website and understand what your choices are. Because when you open an account, you have to say where you want your money to go. So do you want it to go to the bank safe option? Now that's essentially like a money market account. So there's no chance of losing any money, but you're not going to gain money. In the current climate, if you were to open an account today, that might be where you'd want to put your money, depending on how much. Certainly $25, I put it there. And then there's an income option where 80% are bonds. And again, this is an opportunity for financial literacy to understand. So what are bonds? What are stocks? There's a good definition on the website. And then conservative growth, there's a little bit more risk. So a little bit more percentage of that allocation would be in stocks. And again, you're not choosing them. Vanguard, as a very, very successful mutual fund company, is choosing the specific mutual funds where the money goes. You're just choosing what's called an asset allocation, then 40% in stocks, then moderate growth, 40%. So it's a bit, I think I've said it the wrong way. It's a bit more aggressive. So the other conservative is 60% bonds, 40% stocks. Moderate growth is 40% bonds, 60% stocks. And then growth is 80% stocks and 20% bonds. So again, you make a choice depending on how much money you're going to be putting into the account, might determine what you would do. And again, how long you would anticipate the money being in the account, and also just your risk tolerance. How much can you stand, like what's happening right now in the market? Tim did a great job of talking about and giving great examples of qualified disability expenses. So money in a stable account must be used on qualified disability expenses. And that definition is it must relate to the disability plus and help maintain or improve health, independence, or quality of life. And Tim really gave an example of almost all of these categories: housing and rent, basic living expenses, transportation, education, assistive technology, financial management, health and wellness. He didn't say legal fees, but they could be used for legal fees if that were to be a need. So how do you spend from your stable account? Well, And this again would be done online. You would make a request for a distribution and you would say, do you want it transferred to your personal checking or savings account? If so, that's going to takes a couple of days. And so the money comes back into your or that person's account. In my case, it comes back into Linda's, our joint account. And then I pay for things. So for example, we bought a shower chair. I bought one from Amazon when she needed one, and then I keep the receipt. Or you can request that a third party check. So the stable account would make, or the company would make a check payable to that third party. And frankly, I don't know if they send it to you or they mail it directly. I'm going to guess it's the latter. They actually mail it directly. Or the stable Visa card. And Karen's going to be talking here about that. So Karen, how about I will stop sharing so you can share your screen and talk about the stable Visa card.
Hello. Takes a minute to get it shared. Can you all see my screen, I hope? So this is a
Yes.
stable. I have a stable account for one of my sons. And we got a stable card so we can buy things off the stable account. In his case, he's not able to use it on his own, but I recommend, there are lots of people out there who use their own account, and it's a good way to teach young people how to manage their money, and I'll show you why. But what you do is, just like Carolyn said, you go into your stable account, and when you go to do a transfer, you would pick the stable card, and then the money is put there. It takes a day or so to get onto the card. You can also set it up so it automatically loads the card, or it can load the card after certain limit, like if it goes below a certain amount. You're able to monitor spending. You can block things like here, cash can't be taken. We have it set so it can't be taken from an ATM. They can't get any cash back at a purchase. You can even set merchant limits, and they'll have different merchants that you can select. Here I just happened to show you Alaska Air, and then we also took, because it was a restaurant nearby, and we were like, gee, let's see if we could stop him from going to that restaurant. Or allow it, but at least allow a certain amount. And I was able to ask for, let me see, add a merchant setting, and it says select from the list. And if you can't select from the list, then the merchant is not on the list. So then you put the merchant information and name in, and it sends it to the stable people. And I want to say within like 4 or 5 days, I had a block on that. So even if it's a local, mom and pop place that wouldn't be on the list, but most of the things where they have add merchant setting, they have lots, as you can see here, 7-Eleven, 99-cent stores, all kinds of different organizations. You're also allowed to stop on certain spending categories. So if you, never want them to go to a bar and liquor store, then you can block that. If you don't want them to do, gambling in casinos, you can block that. You can also receive alerts. So you can get an alert if there was a transaction over a certain amount, or alert me when the balance drops below certain things. And there's other alerts that you can set up. And then here's a good spot, although I won't be able to show you a good report because we don't use it enough, but you can get a transaction report. And I, recommend this a lot of times to behavioral specialists who are working with individuals of when they have a money management goal in their plan of care. This is a good way to sit down with the person and say, how are you using your money and what are you doing with it? And so you can get a whole spreadsheet. You can also get lots of information on block transactions, detailed transaction report, and monthly statements. I think, Carolyn, I covered everything, unless you can think of something I didn't.
That was great, Karen. I would just add that I don't have a stable card for my friend Linda because I we bank at PNC Bank, and she has what's called a smart access card, which really functions essentially the same, similarly. It functions similarly. It's tied to her bank account. I have a mobile app. I check it every day and I load money onto it. So it's similar in that you're loading money onto it. Now, I don't have the ability to block things, but so far that hasn't been an issue. But just to Karen's point, just the independence that this offers to people for whom money management is not something they do well or can do at all. This just provides that independence, that safety. And frankly, I think, as we all know, most places increasingly, I think they're young people. I sometimes kid when I'm like, do you still take cash? I mean, who knows at what point? I actually, a Hampton Inn that I stayed in Louisville, they didn't accept cash. I mean, they have reasons why they don't accept cash. They said they'd gotten ripped off before. People will pay for the first night and then they'll just stay. So in any event, I think people having this and then learning how to use it responsibly is just it's a great learning tool, as well as helping. Yeah, it's a great learning tool that gives people that sense of empowerment that I think we all enjoy having around our money. So Karen, can you just let me know if I'm showing my screen? I think I am. I just don't have the green box around it. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah.
All righty. So again, but be really clear, as Karen said, the money comes from, for this, the money's going to come out of the person's stable account. So the money has to be there and then be loaded onto the stable card. So some considerations if the person receives supplemental security income, or SSI. So when a person's balance reaches $100,000, and that would be both contributions and growth. So again, that would take several years, because again, you can't, if somebody were to get a personal injury lawsuit settlement of $100,000, you can't just put that into a stable account. The SSI payment would be suspended, but not terminated, because at that point it is counted as a resource. And Tim gave the example of, you could withdraw money, say, to pay housing expenses or rent. So if a person did that, they're going to take money out of the stable account to pay rent, they need to use it that month, or it could count as a resource in the next. And the account, again, I said this earlier, but please, 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 those of you who are employment specialists, case managers, this is not a way to somehow scam Social Security. So the person's wages, the account holder's own wages, still count as income, even if contributed to a stable account. And I do presentations on this. There are resources to help people understand the impact of work on benefits. I can just tell you the sky doesn't fall when somebody goes to work and receives one of these benefits. They're really, actually what happens is they have more money in their bank account. Doesn't mean that you don't need to understand the impact of work on wages. But in fact, this now gives a place for, if you're concerned about, well, my family member is going to work, but they're not going to spend that much money every month. This gives a place for that money to go, to make sure it doesn't count as an excess resource. So what happens when the account holder, it should say when the account holder passes away. So the account passes to the account holder's estate, and whoever the estate administrator then notifies the stable account customer service, so they can take over the account access. And then if the account holder does not have a will, then the account will go through the normal probate process. And Medicaid, so right now, money in a stable account, Medicaid can ask for payback in some cases, but there are protections, and such as the Medicaid payback is only from the date the account was opened. So if your family member has been receiving Michelle P. Waiver services since the program started, my friend Linda started in 2008. I didn't open her stable account until, I don't know, 2019. So it would, she doesn't have that much money, and definitely Medicaid spent a whole lot more on her services, for which I'm very grateful since then. But just know that Medicaid payback is only from the date the account was open. And there are people who have stable accounts who don't have Medicaid. Again, they qualify because they had a disability. So please don't confuse the two. Again, the eligibility isn't because you have Medicaid. The eligibility is because you meet that definition of a person with a disability and it occurred before the age of 26. But if the person does have Medicaid, then also, if there are any qualified disability expenses, QDEs, those can be paid. So for example, final expenses, or there might be some unlikely there'd be medical bills because Medicaid is pretty comprehensive, but if there were, in Kentucky, it's unlikely there'd be Medicaid buy-in premiums because the program's pretty limited, but you never know. And then as it states, you could pay for funeral and burial expenses from the stable account. So there's a modest cost to having a stable account. Monthly maintenance fees are $325 a month. That's the same as the Ohio fee. So we have the benefit, and Treasurer Allison Ball, fortunately, was very wise and connected with the treasurer at the time. And really, we have been able to take advantage of their establishing the program without a cost to Kentucky taxpayers, which is pretty remarkable. And so then that fee is charged quarterly. It just comes directly out of the account. But to the point of, if you put in $25, you want to keep putting in money because eventually the account would be zero. And let me just also add, you have a window of time when you can you can get the money into the stable account, but please encourage people to get the money in as soon as possible, because I think people can forget, like they've opened the account, but they haven't funded the account. And at some point it will close. And then asset-based fees, where those are the fees that Vanguard will charge, depending on where you put the money. And these are very, very, very reasonable. And again, the website gives additional information. And so special needs trust and stable accounts are very complementary. And I've got actually a page that I will send to all of you, because I could, that compares them and compares the differences between stable accounts and then what are called first party special needs trust, where the money belongs to the person with disability, and then third party supplemental needs trust, where the money belongs to their parents or someone else. And so important to know that special needs trusts don't have the limit on the age. So actually I had an email this morning from a colleague from a family member that was going to join, but the person had an accident at age 27. So right now they wouldn't be eligible to open a stable account, but they could open an account with Life Plan of Kentucky, which is a pooled special needs trust, if, for example, they have gotten some kind of a personal injury lawsuit. Also with trusts, what it states, a trust can accept unlimited cash and also non-cash assets, which means a house, for example. So again, they're both phenomenal, and they both protect people's eligibility for benefits, but they do have unique characteristics, but they can work together. So for example, if families fund a third-party supplemental needs trust, when they pass, that trust could in fact be directed, or that trustee could decide to put money directly into the person's stable account, so they can work very well together. So we're here to help. Now, this information is also on the website. And just know that there's also a presence of Stable Kentucky on Facebook and on Twitter. So I'd like now to go to the website. Stephen, I can see you. Can you see do you see the website? Can you just give me the thumbs up? Am I still sharing my screen? Thank you, Stephen. I don't have a little green box around it this morning, so it's a little disconcerting. So again, want to encourage you to go to the website. This is where you would open an account. And Karen, Tim, and I, this is where we would log into our accounts. To open an account, you will need an email address. So those of you who work with people, if they're going to open it themselves, or if you're opening for someone, just whoever might take this on, in other words, somebody needs to make sure, I think, that other people would know how to find out what the email is and what the password is. Because that's, again, at least the email account, because that's how you have one. So we'll close that. And then the website reiterates pretty much everything that we've shared in the presentation. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom real quick and then come up a little bit. Under resources, I pointed out to Jockey that this presentation is the previous one, but it's still relevant. Just the contribution amount has changed to 16,000 and the way fees are assessed has changed. But none of this is a secret. You could open this presentation, you could send it to people. There's also a fact sheet. Here's information on, again, enrollment, check contribution. This is the power of attorney form I spoke about earlier. It's a limited power of attorney that just would be, again, so you could open an account. The person would designate you as their agent. relative to their stable account. So you could open it and you could manage it on their behalf. So that's on the website if that were needed. Again, so there's just lots of information here about resources. And then we'll point out what I would encourage you to spend some time looking at before you open an account, which would include this section, which just says diverse choices. So you can learn more. I'm going to click on that link, and then it takes you to a more in-depth explanation of the 5 different investment options for you to choose from. And if you're interested, pretty savvy, and you want to check out more about the growth option, for example, you can click on this link and it will take you to another page that gives you more information about that particular fund. So just know that there's nothing secret, but you would have to do the work to get additional information. And then the other section I would encourage you to spend some time on before you open an account, is what Tim shared about, which are qualified disability expenses. So you're not limited to these categories, but just understand that, again, the person themselves or whoever opens the account is responsible for having receipts should the IRS or Social Security or Medicaid want to know what you spent money on. Now, you can upload those into your account so that they're there for perpetuity, but the responsibility for being able to document what you spent the money on rests on the account holder or on the person who's responsible for the account. So what questions do you have? Feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to type them in the chat box for either.
I have a couple. If can I ask more than one at one time?
Well, go right ahead, Stephen. Everybody else has those questions too. So sure. Can you tell us first where you're zooming in from?
Yeah, I'm zooming from Henry County, Kentucky. My daughter lives at Pillar, formerly Apple Patch, and I've been her guardian for 38 years. And this is interesting to me because I have difficulty sometimes especially with the stimulus checks that have gone into these accounts to keep the money spent down. So this is very helpful. I guess that I have a special needs trust for her. So this is my first question. I have a special needs trust already in place. Is the trust that you talked about different?
Okay, so I'm assuming, Stephen, the trust you have for her is for your money.
Correct.
All right, so that's the difference. So let me just find my little comparison page. And that probably needs to be made bigger. So yes, it is different. Okay, because it's for your money. You have a third-party supplemental needs trust. It's okay if you call it a special needs trust, but you've created it. And I don't know if you have money in it now. You don't need to tell us, but it's going to have money at some point for the benefit of your daughter. So the big difference between all of these at the moment is that money, there is no Medicaid estate recovery. So whatever's in that trust account, wherever it is, when your daughter passes, your trust document says where, if there's any what's called remainder, there's anything remaining, where it goes. A first party special needs trust, and there are people who do need that because there are people who get $200,000 in a private personal injury lawsuit, and you can't put $200,000 in a stable account. So that right now, those do have Medicaid estate recovery. Again, the idea to me is you spend it. And for right now, a stable Kentucky, those funds could be subject to Medicaid payback. But again, just since, like, if you just open the account today, Stephen, they're not going to go back to when your daughter's, it just starts, that's when the clock starts ticking. Does that make sense? They don't go back. With the other two, they do. With the other two, Medicaid could go back to whenever that person became eligible for Medicaid. Okay, does that help?
Yeah, so if I wanted to open a first party special needs trust, open this in the name of a trust, I would need to set that trust up prior to applying for stable.
No. I would do stable. Okay, so if you're having trouble spending down your daughter's money, I would open an ABLE account. Okay. The only time you would want to look at doing a first party special needs trust to me is if, again, there's a large amount of money.
Okay.
Okay, and the way I would suggest you would do that, for those of you who are on the here, whoops. We do have a pooled special needs trust in Kentucky called Life Plan. So just do want you to know about that as a resource. Because there are people who do get, or they get unexpected inherent, like people haven't done what you've done, Stephen. They're written into, the family didn't have a will, so Kentucky has a will for you. And so that child with a disability could inherit $50,000. Well, again, you could buy a
Okay.
house, you could buy a car, but you could also open an account with Life Plan. You could put 16,000 in the stable account and put the rest in Life Plan. So those of you who are case managers, because I know there are some of you here, you want to know about both of these. There's just no reason for anyone in Kentucky to ever lose Medicaid because they have too much money in the bank.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
I mean, well, you have to do something, Stephen, but there just isn't. There's now no longer a reason, because it's not that hard. You could open an account with Life Plan this afternoon. Well, you could get the paperwork. I mean, either one of these, you can get the account open in a few days, get the money out of the person's account, and keep Medicaid happy. So yes, Jeremy, in regard to investment options, there are not that I know of, there are asset management fees. Okay. There is no fee to open an account. There's no fee ongoing. There's no ongoing fee, but you would want to click here to learn more. And then you probably want to click a little bit further, but the asset management fees within Vanguard, that's one of the reasons I'm glad Ohio chose Vanguard. They're very, very low for the professional management that you're getting. Okay, so Barbara, again, if you're the payee for several people, so let me just go back to the slide. So yes, at the moment, there can be Medicaid estate recovery. Can you see that okay? Yes, there can be. It's just, that is not the end of the world. I mean, really, so it's not the end of the world. If there was some, because think of what Medicaid has paid. I mean, I'm grateful for Medicaid for my friend Linda. She now has the supports for community living waiver. We just did her person-centered service plan this week. I won't tell you how much is authorized, but I have a pretty good idea. Way more than, the couple $1,000s she has in the stable account. Or even if you had 5,000 or 6,000. So just keep it in perspective. So it's again, the Medicaid payback would only be assessed from the time the account was opened. If you haven't paid for the person's final expenses, that's one of the reasons, frankly, why I have an account for Linda. I have done prepaid funeral expenses at Highlands Funeral Home, but frankly, there's an opening and closing of the grave, and you can't put that into a prepaid plan. Well, that could be $1,000, so that's going to come out of her stable account. And yes,
Carolyn, we have a question from Christina Crockett.
right. So that's an answer to yours. I was just looking at the, I will put that. So I'm just looking at the chat. And actually, we will tell you that Karen and Karen, we have been part of a community of learners where we know that there are states that they have passed legislation to not have the Medicaid estate recovery. We did meet with Jockey and Treasurer Ball's chief of staff earlier this week and policy director, and said, can this be explored at some point? So just know that there's activity to at least explore whether Kentucky could have legislation passed if there wouldn't be a state recovery, but that's not that right now there is. But that to me should not be a deterrent from opening an account. So Christina, can you unmute yourself? I think you are unmuted. So go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I was just curious. Sorry, I'm a little confused on certain things. I'm autistic, and I just was wondering what that Medicaid payback thing was. What does that mean?
Right
The
here.
estate recovery.
Okay, so what it means is, Christina, if you have, I'll just take Linda. So when Linda dies, I do have to tell Medicaid if there is still any money in her stable account. And then I might get a letter from Medicaid say, you need to send it to us, because Medicaid has paid way more for her services than she has in her stable account. I mean, she might have $1,000. So that's what it means.
Okay. Cool.
But not while you're alive, Christina. What it gives you while you're alive is so much more than what it might take from you when you die. Okay, what it gives you while you're alive I mean, Stephen, this is the same issue for me with Linda. It gives me a place to save money. She gets a substantial Social Security retirement benefit off her own work record. It gives a place to put money to save for qualified disability expenses that otherwise you don't have.
Fair
That's
enough.
what- So you get a lot more while you're alive than what you might lose when you die. And then Angela, you have a question. So go ahead. You can tell I'm excited about this.
So if an agency.
I can't hear you. Talk a little louder, please.
If an agency is the rep payee for someone and wants to set up the stable account on their behalf, is that something that we're able to do?
Okay, so the answer is, wait, let me go back. Here's about the Vanguard fees for whoever asked about that. You can see they're pretty low. Angela, how about yes, and you need to call that 800 number
Okay,
to find out how you do that. There, I know New Vista here in Lexington has done that for, I believe, a number of people. But that's what I would suggest you do, that you would call the customer service directly and find out how you do that. Thank
very
you.
much.
And so, yes, it is doable. I've also, yeah, it's doable. And Karen and I can both attest, you'll get some voice prompts, but then you will get an actual person.
And they're very knowledgeable. They're able to answer most things, or they get back to you quickly.
These are great questions. Stephen, did you get all of yours asked?
Yes, I think so. Some of the folks asked the same things. I guess the only, you cleared up the Medicaid thing, but if balance is in the stable account, get over $100,000, SSI may be suspended until that balance goes down. But
That's correct. That's correct. The SSI payment,
Right.
right, but not SSDI, Stephen, which, if I may be so bold,
Oh,
most adults, most adults end up on that because their parents start receiving a Social Security retirement payment.
yes, that's what my daughter is.
So
on
that doesn't, so that $100,000 doesn't apply to your daughter. Because that's not,
Okay.
she's not getting SSI. And like my friend Linda, she gets Social Security retirement. And she has nowhere near $100,000 and probably won't, but yeah. So it doesn't apply to people unless they're on SSI.
Okay,
So if a person's getting a benefit from a parent's work record, unless they're getting both SSI and SSDI, that doesn't apply to them.
well, thank you. You've done a very good job of explaining this thoroughly, and I
Well,
appreciate
thank you.
your time and your effort into get this message out.
Well, the three of us are a pretty good team. The four of us, I should say the four of us. We really believe in this. You can tell that it's,
I can tell you that we got a letter not long ago from SSI, Supplemental Security Insurance, and they were like, you were over your $2,000 limit. Well, what happened was my son's payment hit the same day as a stimulus check over a year ago.
Mhm.
And I don't know how they figured it out, but anyway, but when I was able to send them a letter saying that, hey, yes, it did, but 2 days later, that money was deposited into a stable account, they came back and said, oh, okay, we get it. So, it's just, we were able to, we can't help that the money's going to come on the same day.
Right.
And there's no way we could have been over. I mean, between the stimulus and his check, he was over 2,000 then. And if we had any money, extra money in there, he was way over 2,000. So, but we were able to say we put in a stable account. And when I do my payee report, I just put in there how much we saved and they show it the next year. And, I've had no problems with that.
so I'm also showing Karen to that, to just so I will give you all a heads up. I have encountered issues with DCBS, Department of Community-Based Services workers not knowing what stable accounts are, which is not surprising. They have to know an awful lot. So this is, and I can send this to you if you want it, but this is from Medicaid's policy manual. Actually, Karen and I were involved in this too. I mean, I frankly didn't open a stable account until this was in there. So this happened in like August of 2017. So here you go. Letter L, able accounts, known as stable accounts in Kentucky, are excluded in their entirety, regardless of which state the account is located. And that was pretty much our language that we wanted in there. Because in case somebody did end up opening an account in Virginia. So just know, so this is in their manual. There may be, I have had emails from people where it wasn't recognized. I send them this, I say, you need to take this to DCBS. And if there are other issues, we can connect you with somebody else within Medicaid eligibility. But again, you may know more than the person overlooking the documents, but your example, Karen, is a really good one, that just stuff happens. Stuff happens. So let me see what else is, I've lost my chat box. Okay, that's Medicaid's manual. Julie, I will send this to you. This is Medicaid's. This is Medicaid and state supplementation. It's policy number MS 1880. So it's all the excluded resources. I actually had this, well, anyway. So it also talks about prepaid burial. I had an issue with that one year with Linda's recertification. Her prepaid burial plan at Highlands Funeral was fine for about, I don't know, 10 years, and then it wasn't. So I had to, no, really. So I had to get the insurance company to say something, to say that the beneficiary was the funeral home. So I just do whatever Medicaid tells me to do. But the same with Social Security, you just need to, we need to give them information. Because boy, those benefits sure are helpful and important. So anyone else have questions? I'm just so, again, we're just thankful you're here today. For those of you who may join a little bit later, Chelsea will be sending out a certificate for those of you who are in the Zoom room, and you are, at least you're logged in for the entire meeting, because I know some of you do want this for supported employment, continuing education, and we're glad you're here. And Mary Baumgardner, thank you for all you do.
Oh, I guess you'll have, well, now that I've been emailing, will we get future emails automatically regarding these types of things as they come up?
Well, I don't know where you got the email from. So most likely, Stephen, you may have gotten the email from Pillar.
Yes.
Okay, so how about, I don't,
Well, our director can notify us. But,
right. So what happens is I send it often to agency, like it goes out through a listserv of all of the directors of the Supports for Community Living and Michelle P. Waiver program. And then hopefully they send it out to people. How's that,
Okay.
Stephen?
That's
Now,
good.
if you, so that's, so hopefully, yes, if they send it out.
All right.
Stephen, if you send me your email or put it in the chat box, I'll make sure you're on the Zembrat Center's email list. So you
Okay.
get all of our webinars. I mean, I think we try to do it all.
And we
I
try,
mean,
and I will try, but I just can't, I can't guarantee it.
We'll put you on
Stephen, so-
Zembrat's email list and then you'll definitely get
Right.
it.
So I'm putting Zembrat's, is that back up, Karen? You see the
Yep.
Zembrat? Okay, so
Yep.
here it is. You could hear contact at that Zembrat
No, no,
education
just
center.org,
send it.
or send it to
to
you
me.
personally. Okay.
Yeah,
so if
because
you
I
wanna
don't think Brandon, the director, I don't think he's on right now.
Okay,
So send it to me and I'll make sure he gets it. And I know I send it to Kentucky Special Olympics and they send it throughout the state. We send a lot to DCBS and in different agencies. But if you send me your email, Stephen, I'll make sure you're on Zembrat. Got it.
Yes, I sent it in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
well, and you all have my email because you got it from me for the link for today. So,
We got somebody who got it from Voc Rehab. Thank you, Voc Rehab.
that's great. Voc Rehab, thank you. I'm so glad.
Justin, send me your email, please.
The question about whether the manual is available on the DCBS website, you know, Barbara, how about I don't know? It probably is available somewhere on Medicaid. Like DCBS is a division of the Department of Medicaid Services. So yeah, you can find it online, but it's probably on the Medicaid website. But I'm also happy to send it to you if you send it to me, if you email me. I will, I mean, again, this PowerPoint presentation is available on the, I'm not going to send it out to everybody who registered. It is on the Stable Kentucky website, and I'd rather you go there. That's like an incentive to go there.
Thank you all again very much. I'm going to leave the meeting. I have another place to get to, but it's been very informative and greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Thanks for being here this morning, and everybody else. It is 1 minute till we're going to end anyway, but I'm happy to stay here. I won't close the meeting in case anybody's shy and retiring and really has a question they want to ask and have been unwilling to do so. Jockey, do you have anything else you'd like to say, to add?
I just want to say thank you. And also I want to encourage everyone to take the quiz, because by taking the quiz, that's going to show you if you are eligible.
Right, that's the quiz on the website. If your family
website,
member, yeah. If your family member doesn't get the SSI or SSDI, you can take the quiz on the website to see if you're eligible. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here. I'm not just going to close the meeting. I'll stay on. And there are other questions you didn't feel comfortable asking. Otherwise, you all have a great rest of your day. And my goodness, stay safe and stay cool. Grateful for air conditioning.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jockey. Thanks for being here. And Tim, thank you. I will see Karen and Tim and Chelsea later this afternoon.